All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, depending on where you're calling in from, and welcome to today's webinar, Mapping Collaboration Between Cities and Universities, the EPIC Model and YouthMappers. I'm Elodie Nix, a Technical Projects Manager at YouthMappers, and I'm thrilled to have you here. At YouthMappers, we believe in the power of young people using geospatial tools to tackle real-world challenges, and we know that the most impactful solutions often happen when passionate students and communities work together, and that's why we're really excited to be teaming up today with the Educational Partnerships for Innovation in Communities Network, or EPIC-N. EPIC-N connects universities with local governments to help solve pressing community challenges while giving students hands-on learning experiences. And in many ways, our missions are deeply intertwined, or aligned, empowering students, supporting communities, and making a real difference through applied knowledge and collaboration. Over the next hour, you will hear from our colleagues at EPIC-N, Gavin Luter, Managing Director, and Ada Inman, the Communications and Program Manager. They'll share practical examples and opportunities for how our networks can work together. And so we will have some time for a Q&A towards the end of the session, so please feel free to add your questions to the chat as we go. And the session is also being recorded, so you can revisit it later on or share with others. So with that said, we can go ahead and get started. I'll begin with a brief overview of YouthMappers and highlight some of our urban-focused mapping projects. And then we will hand things over to Gavin and Ada to dive deeper into EPIC-N's work. All right, so what is YouthMappers? YouthMappers is a global network of students, researchers, and educators who use open mapping, specifically OSM, and geospatial tools to tackle development and humanitarian challenges. Essentially, we use maps to solve real problems, everything from disaster response to environmental conservation. And the best part is that it's led by students for students. And we are all about addressing the lack of accessible data in parts of the world that need it most. There are over 1 billion people worldwide that aren't adequately represented on maps. And so that means decision makers in those areas are working with incomplete information, which limits any sort of progress. YouthMappers are stepping in to fill that gap while empowering students and equipping them with skills to help lead the way. And so the whole movement started because of a huge paradox. We live in a super connected world, yet there are so many places that don't have reliable data. Over 1 billion people are essentially invisible on the map, and without accurate data, critical things like disaster response, infrastructure planning, or even basic resource distribution becomes that much harder. And so YouthMappers are working on filling these gaps to make sure no one is left off of the map. At the same time, there's often not enough opportunity for young people to make a real difference in their own communities. And so that's where YouthMappers comes in. We are not just about building maps, we're about building mappers. And the idea is to connect the demand for data with the energy, creativity, and skills of students. But students need to be trained on how to create and lead mapping projects. So there's also a very large technical and professional development component to the work we do. So YouthMappers is made up of university chapters around the world. Each chapter is led by students, often supported by a faculty advisor. And what's very cool is a lot of these groups are very interdisciplinary. So you've got your GIS and geography students, but you may also have people who are studying engineering or data science, political science, environmental studies, and more. And so everyone brings something super unique to the table, and that's a huge superpower when you are creating mapping projects because you get so many different perspectives. Right now, there are 436 chapters in 81 countries, and we are still growing. We estimate that we have over 5,000 students active in our network, but that doesn't even begin to encompass all of our alumni around the world. And so now let's transition and talk a little bit about the impact of YouthMapper students and their projects. So To date, YouthMappers projects have made edits that affect over 67 million people worldwide since we began in 2014. And so in this video, you can see almost all of the areas where YouthMappers have created edits around the world. And you can see how much has changed in such a short period of time. Here is another visual representation of what that impact looks like. This graphic shows all the edits YouthMappers have from various regions have made on OpenStreetMap, including roads, buildings, and other features. Now to sort of connect back to EPIC-N and looking at some of our urban-focused projects, we'll take a look at how YouthMappers are tackling global climate change. From wetlands in Bangladesh to urban heat in the Philippines, you will see how chapters from around the world are using open source GIS tools and data to inform sustainable solutions. I would like to mention here that these projects were created and carried out by our chapters, and so the information I mentioned here is largely from the blogs students have submitted about their projects. So if you are interested in learning more about a specific project, I encourage you to head to our blog page. And once I'm done speaking, I can also send some of the links to the blog pages that sort of look into some of these specific projects. So the Howrah region of Bangladesh is a very large wetland ecosystem with cultural, biological, and economic significance that is being threatened by increased flooding. And so to help inform flood mitigation plans in the region, YouthMappers created a risk distribution map of their study area in the district. And so over a large period of days, a group of 15 students traveled to collect data on rainfall, land use, land cover, and other topographical information. And this is one of the maps they created based off that data. They then used geospatial technology to develop a comprehensive map highlighting potential flood hazards in the district. In another example, in Brazil, many urban areas that have undergone rapid urbanization experience frequent flooding, and coupled with inefficient drainage systems and increased impermeability in the area, that flooding has exacerbated the problem, leaving many communities vulnerable during the rainy season. And so YouthMappers in Brazil set out to identify streets most susceptible to flooding in their study area and to create risk level maps that can be used to plan and implement mitigation strategies. And so by leveraging geospatial tools like drones, Mapillary, and Open Aerial Map, students provided high resolution data to local government and communities. And in turn, this information can then empower these organizations or groups to better understand flood risks, improve urban planning, and ultimately enhance the city's resilience to climate change-induced flooding. In the Philippines, YouthMappers collaborated with the World Bank to address urban heat challenges in a nearby city. And with rising global temperatures, this project really sought to understand urban heat retention and its impacts on communities. And so this project gathered urban heat data that could inform resilience strategies for schools and public spaces in the city. This included evaluating micro-level details like whether windows were open or closed, which could significantly impact heat retention. And so as a result, this project will help refine methodologies for future studies in urban heat resilience. So these were just a few examples of some of the projects YouthMappers are carrying out across the globe. And like I mentioned before, if you're interested in hearing directly from the students who created and carried out these projects, I'll be sending the links to the respective blog posts in the chat. And if you're interested on learning even more about how YouthMappers chapters are creating and executing projects that align with the Sustainable Development Goals, you are in luck because we have published an open access book titled Open Mapping Towards the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is freely downloadable and the link is there if you are interested in learning more. So with that, I am really excited to hand it over to Gavin and Ada, who are here to chat a little bit more about EPIC-N and how YouthMappers can get involved. So I'll turn it over to you guys now.
Great. Thank you so much, Elodie. And hello to everyone. What I love about this webinar is that about half the people, well, maybe more than half, a lot of the people already know about YouthMappers. And so I'm sure what Elodie just said, you're preaching to the choir. And this is like, yes, this is what we do. And then the other people have no idea about anything related to EPIC-N. And then there's another group on the call who knows a lot about EPIC-N, but not really a lot about YouthMappers. So I'm hoping that the people who know a lot about YouthMappers gain a lot from what I'm about to say. And for the people who already know a lot about EPIC-N, I'm sorry that you have to hear it again. But I'm excited that a lot of people on this call maybe don't know as much about EPIC-N. And so we can get you connected. We do have a couple of advisory board, former advisory board and board of directors members on the call, so they can also help answer questions about how to get you more engaged. But anyway, so I'll start off by just saying hello, everyone. I'm Gavin Luter. I'm managing director of the EPIC Network, Educational Partnerships for Innovation in Communities Network. I'm based in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And my colleague Ada will introduce herself when it is her time to go. I'm going to try to share my screen here, and I'm kind of being naughty because I was looking up an example to eventually show you all that is different than my presentation. So, all right, let me start this. Can everybody see my slides? Can you just maybe give me a thumbs up, Elodie or Ada?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I think we should start by just talking about generally cities and universities. This is the world that we live in, looking at cities and universities. So we are trying to figure out how to bring cities and universities together. So when we think about this issue, we think about cities and local governments generally having a lot of capacity and bandwidth issues. They usually are the smallest and leanest form of government. They don't have as many resources as they need. They need to do evidence-based practices and good decision making to be able to provide high quality services for the people who live in their communities. They usually also exist in silos between departments. That local governments have a lot of silos. And they usually need to build trust-based partnerships with the communities that they live in particular in kind of the global South. There's particularly a lot of sometimes distrust between the local government and the communities of which they serve, because they're not always perceived to serve everyone. They're perceived to maybe serve only some people as opposed to other people maybe without as many resources. So this is one thing that really motivates us to get involved. So we thought, hey, universities, they have a lot of capacities. They have students and staff. Students are usually willing to jump in and ask questions and have a lot of youthful energy, and they produce knowledge that they want to get used in practice. They usually also operate in silos, unfortunately, between departments, but we know that multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary research and research kinds of questions and teaching about transdisciplinarity is something that a lot of universities are trying to do right now to break down the silos. So we thought that the EPIC model really does try to solve a problem in university community relations that usually holds back our human flourishing. The problem is waste. There's a lot of value that's not being realized right now because we have a lot of innovation and stuff like that happening in universities, but it's really difficult to get it out into the world, into the community. It's difficult for people outside of universities to get inside universities to ask, how can we get your assistance? So we call it a two-sided market failure. There's somebody who has something that they want to give, but there's a group of people who need it that don't exactly know how to get it. And so in this case, we're talking about local governments who need and kind of want the support of people who are doing really cool, innovative projects. But universities have that, but they don't know how to necessarily connect with each other. So we're trying to figure out how to decrease the barriers between local governments and universities. So also, when you think about the waste, think about these kind of numbers. There are over 35,000 credentialed universities and colleges across the world, serving over 250 million students. Um, there are millions and millions of communities out there that have articulated goals and projects that they need worked on, and they are just not achieving the human flourishing goals that they want. Um, think about the amount of work that students are doing in classes that are based on fake or simulated or hypothetical projects. So they're not doing things based in the real world. We think that the reason that these wastes are happening is not because people are evil, not because people want to see the world burn or anything like that. It's just that our cultures, our institutional cultures kind of trap us in these systems that make things more difficult for us to do. So I think, the EPIC model is about how do we address this lost value or the waste, and having, faculty supervised, credentialed coursework, applying that toward community specified aims. And I'll just say that the model has proven and positive benefits, and it can be easily replicable, very low cost, and could be self-sustaining. You don't necessarily need to be spending a lot of new dollars in order to make the EPIC model happen. So the idea is that we try to take existing projects from the communities, existing courses that are already being taught, many different disciplines, and we have a scale across the university, and we think this is just kind of a win-win. And we think every university in the world should be doing this. So generally, the EPIC network is a network of universities who are trying to unite the human capital of universities with local governments and communities to make progress on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There are 5 key tenets to the EPIC model. One is that you try to respect the existing administrative structures on both the local government and the university side, meaning we are not asking the university to start new courses. We are not asking the community to choose projects that they're not already working on. You try to take existing things that the university is already doing and existing documented projects that the local governments need help with. You try to create a genuine partnership, that is to say, a documented memorandum of understanding or a contract that cannot be broken just by one person changing jobs at the university or at the local government. There needs to be a documented partnership that says this is what we are doing and this is what we are aiming to do, and it is actually cemented into the way that a university is working. We try to intentionally improve quality of life. That is to say, we try to make progress on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So all of our projects are kind of put through the screen of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So for instance, if a local government says we want to work on a project that's going to displace low-income people, we would say, sorry, that's not in line with human flourishing. That's not in line with what the United Nations has said is one of the goals that we should be working on toward humanity. To advancing humanity. So we try to make sure that all of our projects are in line with the UN SDGs. We try to make sure that every project is community identified and community driven and community evaluated. This is a big stumbling block for universities oftentimes because students and faculty, they have all these ideas. They have these cool things they want to work on. In fact, researchers have research agendas. That is to say, they have things that they want to do. We don't want to show up and tell communities what to do. We want to show up and ask communities, what do you need help with? And let's figure out if we might be able to address what you want help with and use people on our campus who can help address those issues. Then we also try to get the entire university involved. We don't just want one course, one project happening with one faculty. We want to try to get multiple faculty involved. It's not to say that you can't start with one faculty. We think that that's usually where our programs do start, with one interested faculty member. But instead, we want to try to get that one faculty member to try to get other faculty members involved and connected. We are a global network of over 100 universities in Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Caribbean, and the United States. We have completed over 2,500 projects in more than 400 communities across the globe, and we'll give you some examples of those. But this is just one example of one of our members in 1 year that they worked with communities. They were able to engage over 500 students. They had 15 to 20 projects that the local government identified, engaged multiple disciplines, multiple courses, and the students were providing 40 to 60,000 hours of effort. This is just 1 year, one community in one university working on stuff. So if this is what one university can achieve in 1 year, imagine what a lot of different universities working across many years and many communities could achieve. We do try to track our projects by sustainable development goals. Obviously, a lot of our projects fall within the UN SDG that's around sustainable cities, but we have done projects around a lot of different kinds of things. We typically are guided by sustainability, but we're talking about what I call big S sustainability. That is to say, sustainability that involves environmental and social issues as well. You can see here generally kind of a snapshot of where we exist in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the United Nations, or sorry, the United Nations, the United States, sorry. And you can go on and check out our project library. If you go into the project library, EPIC-N.org, you will be able to see the project library is one of our tabs up here. And then there's a button that you could say search all projects. So you could check that out. And this just kind of shows you what we're talking about here. This is what the interface looks like. You can also check out our stories. We have a lot more stories from around the world as opposed to submitted projects, where we've written documented stories of impact. And I see online here, Tony Sochi, who's retired with the United States Environmental Protection Agency, was so instrumental in getting us interns that we still have from the United States EPA, who's helping us write stories and document what's going on around the globe, and showing what's possible when the EPIC model is put to work. So thanks again, Tony, as a public thank you for the work that you've helped us do. If you just go in for, I just did a quick screen grab where I searched for GIS projects. You'll be able to see many, many, many different GIS projects. And this is one of the reasons why we're doing this webinar. It's because, Elodie, I'm sure you have a lot of YouthMapper projects and chapters that are operating in universities that don't have EPIC-N programs. So we want to maybe use this as an opportunity. YouthMappers is basically doing the EPIC model. You're going out to communities, asking them what they need, and then finding students who can work on that. I know that you're typically working, maybe not through courses, but you're working through individual student organizations or clubs or networks of students. And that's great too. We absolutely would love to have that as part of our family. But as you can see here, there are many, many different kinds of projects that have been done with GIS. I also wanted to just give you kind of a taste of different kinds of projects that have been done, sustainable drainage and waterlogging management, where, students are, mapping training using GIS software and looking at street segments in different cities. And this in particular was in Asia. I think several of these are in Asia and Latin America and Africa. Solar schools, how do we help communities achieve their solar goals by looking at what students can bring to the table with analyzing energy efficiency of school buildings, and then putting together an implementation plan for a local school. Sustainable farming, there was a group of students who put together a farmer youth capacity building training program to empower local farmers to increase their incomes via adopting smart and sustainable farming practices. This again is in Asia. And then another project that we had in Malaysia that was around zero waste, where we had a community trying to train the community on best practices for waste management towards zero waste. This is something that community stated that they wanted to work on, and students put together training modules. So you can see what's possible when students do this. Before I turn it over to Ada, I did want to try and share my screen here. I used to work at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And we had a project that was looking at a citizen science approach for watershed data collection. And this is one of my favorite examples from my own program that I used to run, where a university GIS professor who was very much trained in geodesign, was able to create an application where in this particular creek, this is called the Kashkanong Creek, they wanted to report obstructions that prevented the flow of water in the creek, because these kind of flow, if they got back up, then there was be a lot of flooding, and this was affecting a lot of the farmers. And so they were able to create kind of an interactive kind of mapping tool that allows citizens or residents who are out and they see obstructions to pin where that is happening on the map, and then alert the NGO who was working on removing those obstructions. So it meant that the NGO could kind of have eyes all across the creek, instead of having to go out and do their own inspections. So I thought this was kind of a cool example of how a GIS application was used, and it was used through a course. And oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have stopped sharing the screen. Ada, I can continue to share the screen for you as well. But Ada is going to take it from here. I'm going to get back, I promise, to my my presentation. And yeah, Ada, take it from here.
Thanks, Gavin. Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here. I am Ada Inman, the Communications and Program Manager for EPIC-N. I wanted to follow up Gavin's presentation, talking a little bit about the Student Advantage, what EPIC-N offers, and then how to get connected with us at EPIC-N. So first, for the Student Advantage, I'm sure all the students involved in YouthMappers know how impactful it is to work with community members, and the EPIC model offers similar things. So through working with communities and utilizing the EPIC model, students are able to gain real-world experience in their field, which helps them form connections with professionals in the field, community members, and also a stronger connection to perhaps their hometown. So they can utilize these connections in, future job applications, using these folks as references for those applications, or through building their own portfolio. Also, through this work, students earn course credit to do these EPIC model projects. So as Gavin mentioned, they're already incorporated into their courses. So they're already signed up to do the classes, and they gain credit for this work. And Gavin, next one, please. Thank you. So what does EPIC-N offer? As Gavin mentioned, EPIC-N is the network of programs that are doing this work. So as this network, we help form connections between the folks who are doing the work, and also offer a huge swath of resources to help folks both get started on an EPIC-N program and maintain an EPIC-N program once it is sustainable. So we offer a bunch of different resources to help with this. I want to just highlight a few out of this list. As Gavin mentioned, our projects library has around 2,500 projects completed by member programs. This is a really great space just to explore the different work being done by EPIC and member programs, see what sort of universities are getting involved and what topics the projects are highlighting. Another thing I wanted to mention is our toolbox. So within our member commons, we have what's called the EPIC-N Toolbox, which is basically a library of resources that folks can use to both start their program and help maintain it. Most of the resources in the toolbox are contributed by our member program. So there's a huge set of, sample documents of MOUs, syllabus summaries, evaluation templates. There's a lot to explore there, so I would encourage you to check that out as well. And then lastly, I wanted to highlight our courses. So within our member commons, we also have a tab that says courses, and under here is a bunch of really great recordings of different workshops and courses we've put on over the past few years. This is a really great place to learn more about EPIC-N, know how folks get started on their programs, and then there's a bunch of other resources there that I think would be helpful as well. Next. So I wanted to talk more about exploring collaboration between YouthMappers and EPIC-N, how to get involved after this meeting. And you'll see here, I put in a Google form, which I'm going to share with you all in the chat right now. But if you're interested in following up with EPIC-N and having staff like myself reach out to you, please fill out this form and we will get in contact with you shortly. Otherwise, if you're wanting to just get started, we have our member commons, and we'll share this presentation with you all as well, so you'll have the links here. But the member commons is a place on our website where you create an account totally for free, and then you can get access to various resources such as the EPIC-N toolbox. So once you sign up for that, you'll also be reached out to by an EPIC-N staff member for follow-up. But if you're wanting to just go ahead and get started, this is a great place to start. Also, Gavin.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to underscore and emphasize what Ada said. This is free. We're not trying to make money off of what we're doing here. We are trying to have completely open source, like low barrier to entry ways for universities to get involved. So all of the programs that we have, none of them are required to pay any membership dues or anything like that. This is all for free. So if you're really interested, and say you're in Asia, or say you're in Africa, or say you're in Latin America, we also have a coordinator in one of those regions that we can also put you in touch with that can just get you connected with the network of people working on that continent or in that region. So I just wanted to emphasize again that this is completely free, and we really believe strongly that every university around the world should be doing this anyway. Some of them are already doing parts of it that we don't even know about. So we'd love to learn about it if it's already happening at your university. But again, this is all free. So we'd love to have you as a part of our network.
Thanks, Gavin. And then lastly, I just wanted to say, just start. This is kind of our slogan here at EPIC-N. You know, just start with one community member, one project, one classroom, see how it goes and scale up from there. And it seems like here I'm talking to the right crowd and maybe preaching to the choir that you all are already doing this, so I don't need to say it again. But if you are doing this, we're a great place to get connected to and to network with other folks doing similar work. So please do let us know your contact information through that Google form, and we'd love to follow up. Next, please. Thank you. So I mentioned before, if you do fill out that form, we will be following up with you to share resources, more ways to get involved, and information on how to become a member. We also have monthly EPIC network calls where people who are involved in our network come talk about, there's usually one topic per call, but then we have a space for people to explore, you know, different challenges or ideas that they have with the group. So it's a really great place just to get connected with folks who are doing similar work, talk through different ideas, and then also hear about different projects or resources that others are working on. Lastly, we have a listserv through EPIC-N, which is populated with a bunch of updates from EPIC-N, but also questions, resources, information from our member programs. On the Google form that I shared, I give you an option to both sign up for the listserv and to have a calendar invite for the network call. So if you are wanting to get involved with that, please indicate that on the form. Next, please. Great. And then here are a bunch of ways just to get connected with EPIC-N. Please, if you want to reach out to us via email, you can do so at info@epicn.org. We also have our website, which I encourage everyone to check out. And then we're on various social media platforms as well, if you're wanting to see what sort of updates we're putting out. But that is it for my portion of the presentation. I would love to go into Q&A. It looks like we might have a few questions in the chat, but I'll turn it back over to Elodie.
Well, thank you. We're really grateful, Elodie, that you were willing to go out on a limb and host us on a webinar here. There's a lot of common interests, as you can see. And so I'm just so grateful that we're in touch now, and the people joining us today now know about us, and we now know about you. And so thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing your time and expertise. It was very cool to me to hear firsthand about this program, and I can really see how beneficial it will be to YouthMappers. Yeah, so just a quick little recap. I will be following up to all of the registrants with a link to the webinar, the slides, and all of the links that were mentioned. Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining and being such active participants today. And I hope you all enjoy a really great rest of your day. And I look forward to seeing all of the collaborations that grow from today's conversation.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Take care.